Wilson Ross from Black Room TV. Hello, folks. How's it going?
Hi, good. How
Hi,
are
how are you?
you?
So, I just talked to on Black Hole said it where I was told that JJ wanted you to come along first. So talk to me about getting this road, and you have to take driving lessons all over again to drive the car. Was it all a stunt double?
Yeah, well, JJ just
Either
called
one.
me out of nowhere, and I said yes immediately. Definitely whatever you're going to talk about, I'm in. So it was that I was completely open immediately when he called, and he just pitched me this incredible show, and at every sentence I was in awe of the world of the 1972. And he's like, "You're a wheelman for the mafia." I'm like, "Yes, keep talking," and it just layered, and then the multi dimensions of the show were just so exciting. And then he didn't even say I needed to drive or anything. I just sent myself to Rick Seaman's stunt driving school right away because I felt like I wanted to be able to slip into that skin and really know my kitchen, and know how to maneuver a car if I were going to play a role like that. And it turned out to be Disneyland. It was amazing. I loved it. So they let me do a lot of that in the show.
Rachel, you're playing Nina, a young black FBI agent during the 70s. Like
Uh-huh.
how much did you want to add to the character outside what the call for?
Yeah, I mean, I think doing my research, but already knowing, I guess, what I knew of that time period, post civil rights and post Hoover, but then, pre COINTELPRO and all of the attacks on the Black community by the FBI. Of course, those were in the back of my mind. But I think, I am also a Black woman. So I'm coming in with my experience of being a Black woman, which unfortunately doesn't feel super, radically different from generation to generation. We're still sort of experiencing some of the same things, and definitely in this space, being underestimated and coming into a predominantly white and male space. Those are not unfamiliar things to me. So I definitely um, brought in some of my own experiences, definitely some experiences that I researched. Uh, we had a great, what's the word I'm looking for? Consultant, FBI consultant named Jerry Williams, who was a Black FBI agent who joined in the early 80s, and she was an invaluable resource. She has this podcast called FBI Retired Case Review, and she's got just a ton of stories with different agents. And so I, was able to bring some of that and also just myself to it. And I think I mean, I hope it worked out. It felt good.
Jim is such a complex character. You never know when he's doing right or wrong, and in the between some of these scenes, there's some comedic moments. I don't know if it's intentional or not. Do you see yourself bringing in some funny bones to your character?
Definitely, at every chance I can. JJ and I spoke about this actually on the first phone call, and then more conversations with LaToya later. It was really to keep the fun alive in Jim, and if you play the script literal, yes, a lot of bad things are happening around him, but JJ and LaToya were always there to remind me, yes, and you work for the mafia. It's just another Monday. So that was a great direction in and freedom in allowing me to bring comedy and my own personality into the role, and just the characters are so rich and diverse and like so fun and funny. I love the relationship with my daughter, and I love our relationship, how it's growing, and we're kind of doing this, pulling each other to both sides. And then with my father and the stepmother is so fun and a lot of room for comedy
Billy.
there. Billy, who's, Evan is amazing. So it's really the relationships that fuel those comedic moments. because each character stands alone in its own way. So it's fun.
Speaking of relationship, what did you guys do to establish a chemistry offset so that way we, the audience, can see it on set, even though your characters slowly start to work together, but initially they are apart. Rachel?
Yeah. Well, I think that Josh and I have an easy vibe, an easy
Yes.
chemistry, and I think we did off the bat from our chemistry reader, from my chemistry read.
Yes.
I think, he's like you said, he's a funny guy, he's a charismatic guy, he's got the hair, he's very easy to no, he's very easy to work with and very brings a lot out of I think every actor that he works with, including myself. And I think he brings just this like edge. Josh has this edge. And I think that's what JJ and LaToya saw, and that's why he's Jim. But it's just this easiness. And so I think it was really easy for me to sort of like find my way into that and to make our dynamic feel
Rachel just ignored me, and I
grounded.
was like, "Oh, it's like that."
I wasn't
She
trying
was
to
like,
tell
"I'm
the
not
truth.
talking to you. You are awful." No, she
Oh, it's true.
she was amazing and brought this sophistication to the role, which I think is so fun because I grew up, dirt road Georgia in a trailer, and I feel like I'm working with this very classically trained, highly educated, sophisticated woman. And I was like, okay, how am I gonna navigate this? But Rachel's very down to earth and open and fun and easy. And I like people who are prepared and who are professionals. And Rachel's a pro. And so she brings it and I bring it, and that's what works. I'm never waiting on her, and I hope she's never waiting on me
Just
to
his hair, just
that
the hair
flips,
fixes.
there's that,
There's a lot of
but other than that, we're pretty easy.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned a wheelman. It almost seems that whenever somebody says a wheelman, it's almost like they can't have no other life of being somebody who works for the mob. It's like they can't just be
What?
normal.
A wheelman.
Oh,
Being a wheelman. What goes into being a wheelman? That he has to work for the mob because we see that in other films and other series that like he just can't have a job but just working for the mob.
right. Well, wheelman is one thing. What he really is a fixer. He does whatever he needs to do for the mafia because the wheelman, they're not like a crew that does heists and he has to be the getaway driver in a particular heist. They're a mafia family and every day is a heist, so it's like he's more of a fixer. And what I love is it's like the vehicle is a vehicle to take you between scenes. I love that it moves the script through by that high octane of the car and driving, and then it'll move the story along. And I think that's a fun character in itself.
Fun series. It's good to see you guys working. Again, I've seen your work throughout different years, and so obviously this will get an audience. We're looking forward to where the characters go in the season 2 because that's how HBO does. They don't cancel right away. So we'll talk down the road. Have some fun. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Wilson Miles from Black Women TV. Hello, Miss Morgan. How's it going?
It's going well. How's it going with you?
Good. You've been around the block, done a lot of projects, but this was something you created. How did it come about?
It came about because JJ had read some scripts that I written and he wanted to meet me. And in that meeting, we had a really great time. And he started talking about there was a similarity in one of my scripts with an image that he had 20 years ago of a phone booth in the middle of the desert. And a really fast muscle car races up to it. And he said, I think Josh Holloway gets out of the car. But that was all he had. He had the image, and he didn't know what it was. So we started talking about who his character could be and what kind of trouble could he be getting into out there, who could be in the car with him. And so we just started pitching ideas and bouncing things off of each other. And we decided in that moment that we wanted to do this show together.
The funny that you said Josh, I'm thinking that's right. That's this guy from Lost.
Yes, yes, he's a very good friend. Yes.
As long as they're friends, you got a job. you
Exactly.
know. And then there's the time period. Obviously, it's set in the 70s, so that goes, there's a lot when you set something in the past. You got to get the script right. You got to make sure the setting is right because all the good eyes will see, no, that wasn't around at that time.
No, absolutely. And we spent a lot of time doing research. We talked to consultants. We had a wonderful FBI consultant who we talked to, who was a Black woman in the FBI in the late 70s, early 80s. And she was one of our references so we can get really Nina's journey right. We have our amazing team of construction folks and, our production designers, our costume designers have really made the world feel lived in very, very 1972. So it was a blast to kind of like jump back into that period.
When you think about the lead between Josh and Nina, that's totally separate. What makes them compatible as characters to work together?
I think it seems like they're opposites at the beginning of the show. They're very opposite. He's a criminal, she's a law enforcement officer, she's a woman, he's a man, she's Black, he's white. But over the course of the season that you get to see how well they work together, and they're both really good under pressure and they're both great at getting out of trouble. So when all the craziness of the crime syndicate starts to like buckle down on them, they realize that the two of them are probably like their best bet to get out of trouble.
Not only that, when you think about Rachel's character, Nina, here she is, a young Black woman from the FBI,
Hmm.
and as we can see, she's not getting the respect from all those
Yeah.
around her. How did you want to work that in and wove that in, being young and Black in the FBI during the 70s?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really wanted to be true to the time. So that's why it was great to talk to our consultant about what she actually went through and how even in the early 80s, it really wasn't that much different from the early 70s. And I think there is, when you're a trailblazer and you're like being the person who's leading the way, you're just gonna have to suffer through some slings and arrows. But the thing that I love about Nina is that she's so tenacious and she's so relentless and she is so focused on her goal that she's not going to let anything stop her.
And then there's Josh. You think about his character. How many options did you have as far as deciding the car that he would drive?
Oh my God, we went through a million actually because we really were looking for something that stood out, that was different from all the amazing, cars that we know. We have, Bond with, his Aston Martin, we have McQueen and Bullet, in his car. And there was just something about the Duster that we really liked because they only made it for a few years, about 6 years. And it had a reputation for being very like fast, but sleek and good cornering. And it just had the characteristics of, what we wanted Jim's character to be. And it also had the ability to not everyone knew about it, right? So it was something that we felt could be iconic. And of course it had to be red because that's my favorite color.
We're in a time period where people are praising original stories, whether it be a series or a movie, because there's always challenges as far as trying to find that audience. But you've been around the block, as I mentioned, as far as, the tropes you have to stay away from, it's going to make it sell.
Yeah.
So going into this, being as original, like what was the challenge as far as trying to put this together to find hopefully an audience that's going to embrace it?
Well, thankfully, the studio and the network were so supportive of this idea because it is original. It is, hopefully unlike any of the other things that are on TV right now. I think hopefully audiences will be drawn in by this. This show is really a throwback to kind of the 70s and 80s shows that a lot of people grew up loving, but with a fresh twist. We haven't seen these characters in these types of roles. We haven't seen a Nina in a role like this. And so hopefully it's a good mixture of both the retro and nostalgia that we all love, and that it has enough freshness to bring in a new audience, which I think they would dig it too.
Then I gotta praise, the other characters, and then you have Keith David in here. He's been well
Yeah.
respected for so many years, and you never know if he's playing good or bad. He have that look like, okay, just do what you do, and the audience will get whether or not you're good or
Yeah.
bad. Let's talk about the other characters you got in here because it's not just two of them.
Right. Yes, Keith, the man, the myth, the legend. I mean, it was just, oh my God. When he said yes, I literally screamed for joy. He brings such gravitas to the role. And that's really what's needed. He's the heavy, he's the bad guy, but he's the bad guy you want to hang out with. You want to have a beer with him. So that was what really drew him to the role too. It wasn't just one dimensional. It was complex. And as the season goes on, you get to feel that there's more layers to, what he's up to and what he's doing.
And then you have Corbin, who I've seen
Yes.
recently. We all know his background, and he's on another show now. That's like, okay, he just stays with it. You
He's
know,
everywhere. He's
he
a
just
Swiss
stays with
Army
it.
knife. Like Corbin is so great in grounding Josh. He plays Jim's dad and they have such a great rapport. And then of course, Gail O'Grady plays Charlotte, who's his wife, who cannot stand Jim. And so it was just fun to have this woman always yelling at Jim and poor Wade caught in the middle between his two loves, which was fun.
Before I let you go, like I said, you're the creator, EP on this, writer. I saw that Steph, was the
Yeah.
director of the first two episodes. Definitely a good black affair up in here. But we're always fighting for an audience. Because we have a lot of projects now. We got streamers, we got movies. What's going to get an audience to see Duster?
I think because it's at the core like a really fun show. Like it is like this high octane, high adrenaline, just ride that I hope people want to go on. I think, like I said, there's characters that we haven't seen before. We haven't even talked about Asivak, who plays Awan. That's also a wonderful three-dimensional character that we built in. But I think there's something for everybody. If you like crime thrillers, if you like stories about family, if you like fast cars, this is the show for you.
Hey, congrats on the series. Congrats on this for you. I've
Thank
watched your
you.
name, and it's like, oh, now she's number one. It's one thing when you're a writer and co-EP. It's like, no, she's rising up.
Yes,
So keep it
yes.
going. We're here to support. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Wilson Morales from Black Film TV talking to Benjamin Charles Watson regarding his role as Royce in the new series from HBO called Duster. How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing? I
Good.
appreciate you chatting with me.
Yeah, so here's this new series created by LaToya Morgan and J. Abrams, in which you're playing Royce, the heir to the criminal kingpins, played by Keith David. Let's talk about how'd you go about get this role.
Um, I mean, I got a call from my manager, and then, I mean, the same simple process of being an actor. Like, I got the audition from my manager. I did the first audition, and they really, really, really liked it. And they're like, "Yeah, we have a little bit, a couple of notes for you." And I was like, "Cool, awesome." So we weren't sure if I was gonna redo the first audition or I was thinking another like second set of sides. And then I got another second set of sides with a little bit of notes, what they wanted me to do. And then I did that, and then I got it. I literally just got it after like two auditions. So that's a bit unheard of. So I got a bit lucky.
How would you best describe Royce?
Royce is God, I don't want to spoil anything, but Royce
Say without the
is
spoilers.
I mean, okay, so without spoilers, like Royce has been through a lot throughout his entire childhood, and then now he's trying to be useful. He wants his dad's approval. He wants his dad's love. So like a lot of him is trying to figure out like how can I get my dad to like not my, he, I know that my dad loves me, but like how do I get my dad like prove to my dad that like I'm worthy, like I can be the heir to the throne. So he goes through the process of that. But Royce is a little complex, but Royce is a he's a fun dude.
I always say there's got to be something which every within a character that anybody plays that relates to themselves. How do you relate to Royce?
Yeah. Uh, I think it's that sense of trying to figure out who you are as an individual and how you can become a better person and how to stand in your own. That's like one of the things that he taught me, and he taught me how to have like a lot more fun because he goes through this whole thing of like trying to figure out who he is as a person. Then he stands up in his like in manhood and proving himself. So like he's taught me a lot in that aspect.
Hmm
So
And
we're very similar.
uh-huh. And then not to spoil it, but obviously it's in the first episode, which airs today.
Yeah.
That your character is going through a heart transplant, right? And
Uh-huh.
so, when you take on that sort of role, like I always wonder whether or not you take you take stock into the characters you play. So when you're playing this character who's going through a transplant, even though it's fictional, did you do any sort of research to like how people go through this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I literally had to, but for me as an actor, I have to understand everything that my character has gone through. So, like, I've watched a lot of YouTube about kids who had heart issues and transplant, and people are after having like heart transplant recipients. I've done all of that. Like, how do they breathe? How they operate in the world? Because like it's different. I can't like run around because like I have a heart condition and stuff like that. But for me to in order to play Royce, and it goes to when I play characters, I have to know everything and I have to research everything and understand everything. So like I've also seen like videos on like real videos and stuff like that. But yeah, I had to research as much as I possibly could just to understand it.
Hmm. You don't have scenes with everybody, but what was it like on the set? Obviously, when you're working with a legend like Keith David, and Josh has worked with JJ before, and Rachel, we've seen her work in other projects. Is there a point in time during production when everybody gets together so that way they can know each other?
In terms of like on set or like behind scenes or
Yeah, behind the scenes, like just to know each other, because not everybody always
oh
has
yeah.
scenes. You want to say, oh, you worked together on this project before.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, because we shot the pilot in so we shot the pilot in Tucson, then we all got back and went to Albuquerque, and then we shot in Albuquerque together. But yeah, we all hung out, we all had dinner, we had like a Super Bowl party. So we all hung out. We were pretty much a family. And I think that was my favorite thing about this cast and this project is that we were all literally a family because in the show we're pretty much a family, so there was no like, oh, I don't want to hang out with you, or oh, I'm busy, stuff like that. It was literally a dream come true, and like all of us like got together and we hung out, we like played games, and we like went out for dinner and just like worked out at the gym together and like hot yoga, like yeah. We literally hung out as a family.
Part of being an actor is that you get to travel. So when you said you're in Albuquerque, how much is there to do out there when you're not on set? Is there somewhere to hang out? When people will tell you, oh, what should I visit? What do you say?
A lot of people give Albuquerque like hate. I actually personally love Albuquerque, and my mom and my sister loved Albuquerque. Majority of the time I did, it was like hot yoga, going to the gym. You'd go up to like Santa Fe, or you'd go just like drive around. You'd like see the landscape. So, and eat foods. Like that was a lot of what I did. Work out, hot yoga, drove around, and just like see all the lands. That's pretty. I mean, yeah, there's stuff to do, but we were working. Our schedule was like a little bit. Because yeah, we're there for like almost 6, 7 months, so like it was a bit hectic. But when I'm on my downtime, it's like I just hot yoga and gym is kind of like my medicine to like relax and put myself in like a space. But that's
Mhm.
mostly what I did.
Stranger doing series, you've done a number of them, but when you're working with this project, what's your takeaway skill set wise as an actor that whatever project you do next, you bring something that you learn from this series?
Yeah. So from this series, what I understood and I took away from it is that even more on this aspect, it's a lot of like it's collaborative. So the opportunity to talk to the directors and like collaborate with them and give them like they would give me notes and then I would kind of give them notes in terms of like where I see Royce was going in the scene, stuff like that. Like I've had that opportunity before, but I didn't really like really step into it. So this was such a collaborative opportunity that I'm gonna take this away for like every other project I've ever been in. And on top of that, I understood more how to like dive deeper into a character. Like if I'm in my trailer, like I know all my things that I got to get done, like my pictures and stuff like that to get me deep into the character. So like those are two things it was the greatest experience, and that's going to be like help me a lot going forward.
When I was talking to Josh, I said, why is it that everybody who's a driver always has to be dealing with the underworld? It's like every time you see a driver, it's like, do they not have another job? Can't they just be a driver?
Yeah.
That comes home to kids or is a teacher or so forth. It's almost like, nah, the thrill of having fun and driving is like, I'm working for some seedy character. Having said that, what kind of car do you drive? I was telling LaToya, it's like, how much of a challenge was it deciding what car to use for the series? So what kind of car do you drive, or do you drive a car at all?
I do drive a car. I don't want to say what the car is because it's a huge reveal.
Okay.
But I can't. It's an I can't say it. It's a really awesome car, but the thing about it is that I had to learn how to drive manual because I've never driven manual before. It's just automatic. So like teaching me how to drive a manual car was really awesome. And the car that I cannot say that I get to drive, when you drive that thing, it feels so powerful. And now I'm realizing, understanding like what it feels like to actually drive a car because you feel the power of driving a car. But I drive a really nice car. That's all.
So, yeah, the good thing about the show is that it's not, people can take their time watching it to decide, okay, let's keep it going. I'm intrigued to see what happens next. Having said that, there's so much project. There's so many. There's a glut of projects out there, whether it's streaming or in theaters. You just don't know, when to see it or how to see it. What's going to get an audience to see Duster?
I think what's going to get everyone to see it is the fact that it's the family dynamic, especially of my family. And it's just like the aspect of the cars that are really incredible and the driving those cars really fast and all the twists and turns that happen throughout the entire series later on. And just the people that pop up, including like the guest stars. I think people are going to be surprised by what they see, what they learn, and how the series unfolds. There's nothing like it on TV. And the fact that it's set in the 70s and the clothes and the hair and the music. There's so much. I think everything combined together is going to bring people together. So I'm dying for this first episode to come right now.
And so just to wrap it up, when you're not out there promoting the show and people don't recognize you, what do you do to stay humble?
I mean, I try to stay humble as much as I possibly can. I'm curious as to how it's going to go after the first episode, the couple second episode, but it's gonna sound weird. But to me, staying humble, I mean, I'm living in LA, and like I take the bus and I take the subway, and people are like, "What? You don't do that in LA?" And I'm like, "No, you can. Like, it is safe, but I don't want to put myself like above anyone." So like it's weird, but like I just stay humble by just like just being a normal individual. Like I don't want to put myself above anyone. So I do regular normal things. Like I walk around LA and everyone that's like controversial because no one walks in LA. But I just try to be I just try to be simple as much as possible and just like humble. Like that's I don't know. I'm just a humble dude in general.
And
it's
that's
so
good.
hard to like
It's good that we have this on record because a year from now, the season gets renewed and it's season 2. And I ask you, how do you stay humble? Oh, my driver, he's coming to pick me up.
No, I would never. My mom would be like, "You're not doing that." My mom. Plus, it's like my family, my mom, my friends keep me really humble. Like they cannot. If my head gets inflated, they will literally knock me back down in the size. It's like you need to stop that. That's not who you are, man. That's not how you were grown.
See, we all need family. But listen, congrats on the road. Congrats on the series. Obviously, it starts out today. Let's keep it going. Let's get people to talk about it. Hopefully, there's a season 2 to this, and we'll talk down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Wilson. Appreciate it.
Take care.